The gentleman who showed up with no attorney.
It is very.
Okay. Turn your mics on, folks. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that a notice of this meeting was made possible on the bulletin board by posting on the bulletin board, town hall, and mailing to the officially designated newspapers list of meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at Town Hall at 7 p.m. on October 7th.
Joseph Caulfield,
Present.
Chandra Varjani,
Here.
Amy Lawrence.
Here.
Mary Rosen,
Here.
Regina Truitt,
Here.
Priscilla Serrano,
Here.
Zhang Peng.
Here.
Jessica Glad.
Here.
Rick Clayton.
Here. Okay, so we'll start this meeting first with approval of minutes at 8/19/24. Any changes or corrections on those minutes? If not, can I have a motion?
Present at that meeting were Joseph, Amy, Gary, Regina, and Craig.
Anyone of those? Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
You have spoken.
Oh, well, she's talking the same. So,
No.
next, we have two memorializations for this evening.
Two.
First, we have calendar 399224, Veterinary Emergency Group LLC at 720 Morris Turnpike, Short Hills. There were several revisions sent out, but the last one was the basically final best.
Yes, so this afternoon I sent out a revision that incorporated some additional language referring to the variance for the corporate logo, which was 3 feet instead of 2 feet maximum permitted. So I revised the resolution to incorporate that as a C2 variance, and other than that, there were no changes.
If there are any other changes or corrections, can I have a motion? Sorry, who's available now?
Okay, eligible Joseph, Amy, Gary, Regina, Craig.
Can I have a motion for corrections or changes?
Motion to approve?
A second?
I'll second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes. And our second one of the evening is calendar 398724, Picnic Playhouse at 2022 Brookside Drive in Milburn. Any corrections or changes? Can I have I'll go with the head count on that, same group?
Same people.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
In a second?
Second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes.
Craig Plattner.
Yes. So this evening, there's a couple things, announcements, and we're gonna move some cases around here a little bit. First being calendar 398324, Amar Kak and Nova Bronstein, a property located at 112 Kilbrook Road. That matter is being carried to 11/4/24. There'll be no further notice, so if you're here on that one, that will be moved then. There's a calendar 399124. That is Timothy O'Brien at 368 Hartshorn Drive. That matter will be carried, we're still 1216? That's what it's going to?
1216.
Okay, so 1216, so if you're here tonight on that one, that's being moved to 1216.
And no further notice to be provided by the applicant.
No further notice, correct. Now, this evening, the property for calendar 399824 at 33 South Mountain, that case will be heard last as we have a recusal on that. So starting off this evening, we have calendar 399524, which is 52 Meadowbrook Road. This matter is carried from 9/16/24. David Schefter, we're on now. If you both speak this evening, or is story open?
You
You swear affirm testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, and the truth.
I just,
Your names for the record.
David Sharkey. Daniel Duvenet.
So who'd like to speak first?
Tell them a little bit about your life.
Yeah, we've been in town for 14 years, so we have 3 daughters, 2 dogs. So the dogs are the only males in the family besides me. Just outgrew the house, right? So we just need more space. That's what we're doing here.
So yeah, the short story is we want to get some additional space for storage, maybe a little office. And the best place to, that we found was to increase the roof pitch of the house. And so we'll create a staircase up to the attic. We'll,
Okay, let's get you.
let's go backwards. Sorry. Daniel Duvenet, licensed architect since 2001, so it's been about 23 years I've been practicing architectural, primary residential architecture in the Gilbert Shore Hills. My office is here. My license is current and in good standing still. And graduated a master's degree in JIT 1995. And I've appeared before this board and many others.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. So the short story is that we would like to add some additional space to the existing home. And our roof, the existing roof is a a hip roof with a very shallow pitch, which turns out it's like the only house with a shallow hip roof in this area of town, which is 52 Meadowbrook. It's in the R6 zone. So aesthetically, we're going to get some curb appeal, and then we'll get some additional space for them. So the 3 variances we need for this to happen all relate to the side yard setbacks and combined side yard setbacks. Because we have 3 existing non-conforming situations. So the house on the left side is at 7.05 and the right side 7.9. And because we're going to manipulate the roof and change it, we're going to be asking for this to have the existing numbers remain the same.
Go through first what you're looking for.
Thank
said
you.
3, but.
3. So there's 2 side yard setbacks.
Oh, that's how you do it.
Yeah, so there's the left side, right side, and then the combined side yard setback. And they're all a function of the existing house, how it sits on the lot. So on the left side, like I said, is 7.05, the right side 7.9, and the combined is 35% of the lot width. And his lot width is 50 feet, which also kind of works against us because the minimum for the R6 is 60 feet. So of course, if we had the extra 10 feet, we probably wouldn't be here tonight. So that's the short story, is that it's an existing non-conforming house on the lot that we'd like to elevate the roof line to create some additional space. We are well under on lot coverage, building coverage, and FAR. And so really it's a question of, does it fit? Does it look good? Is it acceptable? And I don't see any negative impact to the neighbors. And that's where I kind of surveyed what's happening is everybody has these very traditional gable roofs. I think he's the only one, I couldn't believe it, that has a hipped roof. So it'll fit with the neighbors very well. It won't block any light and airspace. I measured the distances from the Schefter's house to the other ones, and there's 14 and a half feet between the 2. So that won't change. The neighbor on the right side has got this tall, steep gable roof with some attic space. I have some pictures if you'd like to see. So very little impact, but I think it'll add them some additional space, which they need. The basement is very small, and I think the property can handle it.
Sure, well, show us what you got.
Okay, so I'd like to just pass this out real quick. I'll call it Exhibit A1.
Well, let's see what it is.
Okay, all it is that, well, because I apologize, the plans did not have the basement shown, so I wanted to show the basement. Second floor at existing. Photographs that I took.
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't you, let's hand them out,
Mhm.
and then we can, okay. We're gonna mark the packet as A1, but we'll get into what that is in a second.
I think I will get one.
Yeah, thankfully, they're in black and white, so you don't have to see the color of the house.
And luckily, it was when the leaves of the tree, so you can really get a good picture, because I went there today and it's kind of cool with the tree, the leaves on the trees, you don't get to see the green too much. But this shows how it is.
That's all right. You're good.
Yep, thank you.
Dan, hold on one second.
Yes, sir.
So this is, excuse me, A1 is a handout consisting of 4 pages. The first 2 pages, you're going to describe as floor plans of various portions of the house. And the second, the third and fourth pages are photos of the front and rear of the house and the neighboring property, correct?
Yes, and the last page is a picture I took today. I had done a house right on Meadowbrook, I don't know if it was 5, 6 years ago, maybe more, but it was the same concept of what we're looking to do, and yeah, just how it fits nicely into the streetscape. Just an example of a previous project I did, which I think that's why he hired me, right?
It's true.
So, okay, so the first page is the basement, kind of small, so it's already, no room to kind of grow and expand down there. The second floor, it's a modest first floor. It has a family room addition. And then the next page was just photographs of the existing house that I took. Luckily, like I said, during the more winter months. And you could see the very shallow roof line from the front, and then the back is nice because you get a chance to see the neighbors on the left and the right of the home. So, we'll be similar to what they have already. Yeah, that's the application. Thank you.
So you consider the roof as modified or revised a gable roof?
Yes, we'll be doing a gable roof. So pitch from the front to the back. And what he has now is like pitched on all 4 sides.
And you don't need a variance for height, correct?
No, we're under the height.
Are you exacerbating any conditions that you currently have?
Yes.
No, I mean, from a measurement standpoint.
Right, but no,
I guess you're not building closer, let's put it that way.
no closer than what exists today, yeah.
Any questions for Mr. Dumet or the applicant? Any questions from the audience regarding this application? Any comments from the audience regarding this application? No, that's the public portion of this. Board members, your thoughts?
I think it's a modest ask, and I actually agree that it will look nicer in the neighborhood. I think it's absolutely keeping in the character of the other homes in the neighborhood. I think it'll be a nice addition.
I agree, I think this looks nice, I think it's gonna just freshen it up a little bit and sort of make it a little more appealing from the curb, so I would be in favor of this application.
I agree.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Jonathan Herzog,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Virginia Truitt,
Yes.
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Ed Whitman.
Yes, good luck with the project.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see everybody.
Next up, we're on calendar 399924, 117 Cypress, James and Dina Glenn. Swear you both in first.
President, do you swear affirm testimony about to give in tonight's hearing be the truth, whole truth, and the truth?
Yes.
Your name for the record.
Dina Glenn?
Yingli, Yingli. Okay,
Can you
I,
speak first? Are you,
I'm the homeowner, Dina Glenn.
okay, thanks. Let's qualify you first.
Okay, my name is Ying Li. I have a Bachelor of Architecture degree from University in Shanghai, China, and I'm NCARB certified. I have a Master of Planning degree from University of Pennsylvania. I have been a registered architect in New Jersey since 2006. I have testified at this board for a number of times. My license is current and it's in good standing.
Very good. Your credentials are accepted by this board. Please continue.
As you can see, there's the addition of the house, the addition to the 117 Cypress Street. It's basically there are two small parts. The first part is to extending den on the southeast toward the backyard to align with the existing back of the house. The second part is to replace the existing canopy over the front entry. It is in the Wyoming Historic District, but we have gone through the HPC hearing and it was approved. Then in terms of our zoning, as you can see in the drawing, the site plan, the only part that is the only part of addition is adding the footprint of 169 square foot. And then the only variance item is 606 to E2B when it lot coverage. The maximum allowed is 35%, and with that 165 square foot of addition, we are adding less than 2%. It's just that 169 square foot triggered that lot coverage variance. This is an undersized lot, and the reason, just like many of the house in R5 in that area, they have, there is a detached garage further up, all the way at the back of the property. So the existing detached 2-car garage and the driveway leading to it contribute to 20% of the lot coverage. So the small addition of 169 square foot is adding only basic 1.8% to the lot coverage, but it does, make it non-conforming. And
How
this
big is
is,
your lot? 9375? Because your existing is 14.5, but I think that's
let me
just a
see,
typo.
why? The lot. Oh, yes, okay, it's,
You
yeah,
showed
yeah, yeah.
existing at 14.5, but you're.
You're right, yeah, yes, that's typo. We
So
probably-
you're 9375? right?
Yes,
You're
93,
R5, so you're 14.5 minimum.
yes.
Okay.
So, yes, it is undersized, 9,375 in a 14,500 square foot R5 zone. But the main thing is really the driveway, like many of the house in the area. And the detached garage, which is considered counted toward building coverage. Actually, no, it's the lot coverage that it's a lot coverage, so. As for aesthetics of the house, the current, if you look at the building elevation, there's a bathroom at the front of the current den. It's pretty obvious it was added later at a certain point to this 1920s home. And you can see there is a small window for the bathroom at the front. It's quite out of character for the house. So the design basically moved that the bathroom to the middle of this long den on the right-hand side of the house. By doing that, we are able to have a row of casement window at the front of the building and the side of the building. That kind of revert the house, the look of the house more in tune with the characteristic of a den versus having the current quite awkward look, have a small window of the bathroom facing the street. So we think by moving the bathroom to the middle of the addition, it's actually improved the streetscape. And then the small offense of 1.8% over the lot coverage, it's the one and only variance that cost, the addition cost. basically like in the application number 15. The addition at the back of the house essentially is extending the existing den to align with the back of the house. The existing roof line is maintained to be consistent. The new windows follow the dimensions, proportions, and the style of the windows in the existing den. By relocating the bathroom, the facade is improved by replacing the current haphazard-looking bathroom window with the windows that reflect the typical style of a den in an early 20th century home. Similarly, detailing of the new canopy is consistent with the style of the 1920s home in that neighborhood. That's it.
Any questions from the board?
Okay, you said this is in the historic district?
Yes,
Do you have a copy of the
we were approved, but did you receive?
the resolution? Has it been received yet? When would you get approval?
August.
No, before, it's like a,
June.
yes, it's June. Oh,
Yeah.
before
June.
end of June, before the school.
Just if I could get a copy of the
Okay,
resolution
yeah.
before the permits are issued.
We'll make that as a condition if it's approved. Any questions from the board?
Just one.
Sure.
You mentioned the bathroom, which is front facing, the road street facing. When we move to this new area, what is going to be in the place of this? Is that the den?
Office.
The office?
Yes, basically the bathroom is will be between the front office, small office, and the back den. So basically tucked between two interior spaces. No longer facing the street.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Any comments from the audience? I will close the public portion of this application. Board members, your thoughts?
I'll go. It's a modest ask, it's one variance, there's nobody objecting, I support this application.
I like what you're doing here. I think the windows are a nice add in the front. It's interesting that the things they did back in the 20s. Putting a bathroom in the front of the house like that. And I think that it just, even taking out all the windows, like, I don't know if that was a porch at one point, a screen porch, or whatever it was, that's on the side there. I think by making it look more modern and filling it all in, I think it looks good, makes some useful addition to the house. And in terms of the variance you seek, there's clearly a C1 hardship here by having a lot that's substantially undersized for the zone. And you're still keeping well within you're
Yes.
close. You're
It's
about as
close,
close as you get in terms of staying within the confines of the ordinance. So I would be in favor of this application.
I'll go. As my colleague said, I'm for this as well. I think it's a modest ask, and the fact that you're light on area and frontage, I think it is a hardship.
Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the application.
A second.
I can second.
Thank you.
Joseph Caulfield,
Yes.
Chandra Rajani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence,
Yes.
Gary Rosen,
Yes.
Regina Truitt,
Yes,
Jessica Black.
Yes.
Frank White.
Yes. Good luck, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have 1200 Mars Turnpike calendar 4424. Eagerly.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
How are you?
Good. John Wuchaskala on behalf of Italy Short Hills LLC. Pleasure to be back before the board this evening. I do have one witness who just stepped out and he's not here yet, but hopefully he shows up before I finish this opening statement. So we're here before you tonight. Italy Short Hills is a tenant at the Short Hills Mall. They are currently renovating and fitting up approximately 17,000 feet of space that was previously occupied by Mercado. Just kind of sort of an Italy knockoff, if you will. They shut their doors in January of 2024. Italy is very excited to be here in Short Hills with the opportunity to operate their facility within the mall. They have been going through renovations, if anybody has been there recently, hoping to be open and operational actually later this month, assuming everything continues to go according to plan. We are here before you this evening seeking variance relief to permit the installation of an exterior wall sign. We've got 2 variances in that regard. We exceed the maximum wall graphic height. 2 feet is permitted, and we're at approximately 6.77 feet. The sign is also proposed to be mounted over that exterior entrance, just above the first and second floor plate, and that's another variance under the code. The variance relief we're seeking is actually similar to some other signage that's in the mall. I handled Cheesecake Factory, which was before the planning board back in 2011, and we had similar relief to provide adequate signage for wayfinding, et cetera. I have one witness. Mr. Keller is setting up his easel right now. He'll just show you the sign plan, explain the importance of having this signage for wayfinding purposes, and he'll go over the variance relief.
Do you swear from testimony you're about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Name for the record.
Richard Keller, Keller. I'm a licensed professional engineer and planner in the state of New Jersey.
And Mr. Keller, can you please provide the board with a brief summary of your educational and professional background and the licenses you hold?
Yes, good evening. I have been a licensed engineer and planner since 1990. I hold a bachelor's degree in civil engineering with concentration in water resources and environmental engineering. And I also hold a master's of architecture with concentration in urban planning and design, and that is from the New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I was also an adjunct professor for approximately 11 years. My licenses are in good standing. I've appeared before approximately 110 boards for the state of New Jersey as both planner and engineer, and it's always nice to be back. I thought we were going last, so I ran and got some water and almost missed the case. So, but I'm ready to go.
We would not have done it without you, Mr. Keller. Maybe.
Your credentials are approved by this board.
Thank you. Well, I think we all know where the mall is, and this site was previously occupied by Mercado, which is I always thought it was kind of a knockoff on Italy, and so now we have the opportunity to get the real thing. The space is located. That's the plan that before you. I have 2 exhibits. One is we're calling Italy signage exhibit A2, and that is dated October 7, 2024, prepared by my office. Photographs were taken today, and we just superimposed at scale the signage over the existing facade.
And why don't we mark that as exhibit A1?
Yeah. So I was smarter. I would have done it the other way, but
Just saying.
yep. But I was going to talk about this one first. So.
Wait.
Okay.
So this
Can we, why don't we just mark the first one as A1?
Oh,
You can talk, whatever.
A1. A1 is Italy signage exhibit A1. This is a blow up of the engineering drawing you have before you with some additional information, which I'll get to in a second. Shows the facade in a larger format without the red bubbles around it, and then and that was prepared by my office using exhibits that were taken. The exhibit is taken from the plan you have before you with some zoning added in. And then, as we already described, we're now marking it A2. Just to orient you in the mall, Italy, the Italy space is located, it's on a north-facing facade, faces JFK. It is located halfway roughly between Bloomingdale's and Macy's. It's about 250 feet due east or from the Cheesecake Factory, which is off to the right. The sure, no worries. The building itself has a facade that's about approximately 147 feet long, and it's about 43 feet high. There is a second floor behind it, but you don't see the second floor. It's a brick facade, which is actually kind of attractive, and sort of harkens back to the Roman brick buildings of the Colosseum days, which is kind of appropriate for Italy. There is no visibility of the second floor behind you. The lettering will be pin mounted, white, set in an aluminum frame, halo lighting behind it, and working with the banding within the building, the architectural banding. Between the two existing bands, they've been infilled. There's the word Eat, Shop, Learn, and right above that is the word Italy. These are individual pin-mounted letters, so technically the area is just the area of each letter. And if we look at the lettering themselves, the word Italy is at 2 foot 9 inches, where 2 foot is permitted. And the words Eat, Shop, Learn are 14 inches high. Again, that's where 2 foot are permitted. Just to be conservative, when we noticed, we did put a square around the entire word Italy and Eat, Shop, and it comes to 6.77 feet. But I think per our ordinance, it really operates as 2 signs that are separated by some architectural banding. And again, to be conservative on the notice, we noticed that it's 6.77 from the bottom of the word Eat to the top of the word Italy. You can see in the Italy has painted the facade. They've been in the canopy. They're working on the interior now. And the signage, this photograph, large photograph is actually taken from JFK Parkway. So I'm just on the grass. I'm about 280 feet from the traveled way. I'm about 280 feet from the facade. That facade being about 300 feet from the traveled way from the eastbound lanes, and about 350 feet back from the westbound lanes. I'll come back to that on my planning. Just to go back over the A1. Again, we've taken the image and blown it up for a little better ease. You can see on the right side the finished floor at 0. The second floor, which is no windows, no fenestration, is at 21 feet in height. The roof is at 42, and there's another 1 foot parapet. So the overall height of that brick massing is 43 feet. And if you look at it, you can see that I think that the lettering is actually fairly elegant and restrained as it sits on that facade, and it's appropriate to the scale of the facade. I would point out that, again, overall 6.77, individual lettering on the bottom is 1 foot 2 inches, 2 foot 11 inches on the top, for 2.92. So we're about a foot taller than what's permitted by the code. But again, if you look at that overall facade, I think it's a more aesthetic arrangement. Just as a way of doing a little housekeeping, we do need a variance for the height of the letters, where 2 foot is permitted under the Development Review Ordinance 609.1.10A. We're looking for 2 foot 11. And we're looking for the bottom section is conforming. Overall, we're 6.77 from top to bottom. I would point out, though, that in terms of the overall area, that facade itself is 5,890 square feet. Of the signable facade is when you take out all the glazing. The signable facade comes down to 5,164 feet. The pin lettering, just the letters themselves, which is the way the ordinance says you take the area, comes out to 16 square feet. That is 0.31% of the signable area. That's where 20% is permitted. So we're about 60 times less than allowed by code. I think it's an elegant facade. If we were to take the overall square, even we put a square on the entire facade of the Italy and Eat Shop, that total area would come out to be a total of 162 square feet. 162 square feet over that larger facade would still be 3.14%, where 20% is permitted. And if we just took the first floor facade, just the area below that second floor line, we'd still be at 7.56%. So again, well under the 20% permitted, even on half the facade. So in terms of the amount of signage, it's certainly under what's anticipated or permitted by code. We think that this can be approved as a C2 variance, where the two of the goals of the master, goals of purposes of zoning are enhanced. First one is section A, 4055 D2A. A goes to talk about safety and general welfare. We think that, I know any of the times I've met somebody up at Legal Seafood, or I know people who go to the restaurants at the mall, they open earlier on the weekends and they stay open later at night than the mall does. And it's always important that people find parking that's proximate to the entrances, because either if the mall is closed, they can walk through the mall, but they're going out an entrance which is underutilized, and there's a feeling of not being safe. So by the appropriate signage, I think it's actually still going to be hard to read from JFK Parkway, but certainly as you come in the drive, as you're driving along the road, it's important that people see where Italy is, especially if they're coming to the mall and they're specifically coming to Italy, so they don't come in on the opposite side, park by Bloomingdale's and the decks over there, or park on the top. They can park right outside of this restaurant. They can identify it through wayfinding, through the signage. I think it's more appropriate at that scale. And more appropriate, it advances the purpose of zoning under 4055 T2I, which is this is a better aesthetic solution. I think that is, as indicated, you can see that even when you're 30 feet away, I had to get close because the sun was beating down. I had to get close in here. I'm only 30 feet away, and you can still see that the signage is appropriately scaled for the entrance, for the architectural banding, for the brick that sits above it. And when you look at the big picture again, it feels like an elegant composition. So I think that certainly in aesthetics are enhanced. I think if you did lettering that was only 2 foot, it would start to lose, it would feel undersized for the facade. It's a big facade and can certainly even handle more height. We think it's appropriate, it's adequate and elegant. There's no substantial detriment to public good. It is still 300 to 350 feet away from the traveled ways of JFK, only getting frame views through the generous landscaping that marks all of the entrances in, but it does allow for some visibility when you're coming in the entrances or when you are coming into the entrance. There's a decel lane right in here. There's a spot where you can see Italy and you know where to go, so it provides that wayfinding. So again, no detriment to the public good. There are no residences or other residential properties in the near area. We think there's no impairment to the master plan and the intent and purpose of the master plan. The mall is a critical asset in our master plan. I think it's. I was excited as could be to hear that Italy was moving in. They are a favorite of mine in the city. I think it's a feather in our cap when most malls are looking to close or spin off half the mall as residential. I think we need to do everything we can to make sure that these businesses that are moving into the city, especially high-end marks like Italy, have the proper signage they need. So there's good wayfinding, there's a good presence. I think it only serves to increase the viability of the mall. We think it's a great application. We think they'll be a great member of the community, and we hope that you'll approve it.
Thank you. Okay, President?
Nothing further.
Any questions for Mr. Keller?
Let's talk about lighting on the sign.
The lighting is actually, while it is, there's white lettering, it's got aluminum channel, and understand it's halo lighting from behind. So there's a gentle glow that will go behind each letter. It's probably, halo lighting is probably the most elegant lighting you can have on a retail sign. And I'm happy that it's pin mounted so you get to see the brick between the.
And will that stay on 24 hours, the lighting, or all night long, I guess?
I don't know if they stay open all night long as well.
Our expectation is that we try to keep energy efficient, so we'd like to see it turned off after they close. But that's powered from the store.
Probably,
Yeah.
I would venture to
I think
guess.
the attorney needs
Yeah,
to.
no, I'm gonna,
Somebody else.
I'll just specify on that. Probably similar to some of the other, like Cheesecake Factory. I don't know if their policy is to shut the lighting off within an hour of closing. That's
Is that in
kind
the
of
lease of the
typical.
mall, though? Typically would it be part of the lease?
Yes.
You probably stay later, open later though than the rest of the mall, though, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, they stay open later than the mall, and they open earlier than the mall.
Yeah.
But I think it's
So
important.
it probably would be tied to.
Probably tied to within an hour of closing of the restaurant, if not just at closing.
But I do agree. I think it's more about energy efficiency than, there's no negative impact if they were to keep those halo lights on all night long. But that's probably a mall issue.
one more question. Are there any other, this is the exterior signage, not interior. Are there any other similar ones at the mall that have this size?
Yeah, well, Cheesecake Factory received a variance for 3'6" on their overall signage. They have a C and an F that are expanded. Mostly their signage on the mall, I would say the Macy's from the bottom of the Y to the top of the star on the word Macy's is probably about 7 feet. The anchor stores, Bloomingdale's is actually fairly small. Bloomingdale's is probably 3 to 4 feet. Macy's is probably 7 feet. The anchor stores always have larger signage, and then those, they're not the full anchors, but the ones that have an independent identity all seem to be about between 3 and 3'6" as they read on the outside. So the restaurants all have a presence on the outside, again, because they stay open, they have private entrances, and they all seem to be, as I said, we looked at the Cheesecake Factory resolution, I think this is included in the application package, and that was approved at 3'6".
So this would be in character with those.
Absolutely. Actually, a little small, but I think it's, again, elegant and appropriately scaled to the facade.
I was just saying it maybe it seemed a little small, but.
I agree.
Sorry.
I agree.
Caught me good.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm fine with the size. Just have a concern, like, it says like the walk-off might extend to the second floor.
Yeah, so what our ordinance actually says is that the signage can't go above the floor line of the second floor. And so here we show, this is the floor line of the second floor behind. In this particular case, there are no windows on that second floor. So it really reads as one tall building. And so, and again, it's biased towards the lower. If we were to try to lower that, we would actually disrupt the architectural banding. One of the ordinance requirements is that your signage should not interfere with architectural elements. So I think it's appropriate. It's down in the lower quadrant, lower third. It's appropriate, and I think because we have no windows, no fenestration on the upper floors, you would never know that it was above that second floor line. For all you know, the second floor line could be a foot above. So again, I think it all goes to composition.
So do we need to concern like in the future, will the tenant need to open a window or not?
The tenant doesn't have that space up there, but no, that's existing tenant space. Most retail don't like windows because it takes away selling area. So I can't imagine any way, shape, or form that tenant behind Italy, there's a couple of clothing stores, and behind that there's some circulation for distribution into those stores. There's one through renovations. So I can't imagine any scenario where they would ever want to put fenestration up there. So I think this is exactly what this facade's going to say.
Any further? Any questions from the audience? Comments? Any other questions from the board? Want to close the public portion? What are your thoughts?
I would be supportive. I think, I do think that the sign is appropriate for the size of the facade. If anything, it does seem like it could be larger. I'm not fine with the fact that it's not larger, but I think it certainly could support it. So I do think there are safety considerations, especially where people will be looking for the building, looking for this store. It's a popular location, so I think it looks tasteful. I think it's proportionate, and I would be supportive.
Thank you. Anything further?
I'm supportive and excited to have people in
Me too.
town.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Take a second.
Second.
Very good.
Joseph Stoffel,
Yes.
Sean D. Harjani,
Yes.
Amy Lawrence.
Yes.
Jerry Logan,
Yes.
Virginia Truitt,
Yes.
Jessica Black,
Yes.
Craig Kutner.
Yes. Good luck with the new business.
Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
One second. So the last application we have this evening is 399824, 33 South Mountain. Shoshana is going to recuse on this one. And you can So we're just putting you all in real quick, so we'll get you all together.
Do you swear from testimony about to give in tonight's proceeding be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Can we go to you first?
Douglas Miller from AHM Architects, located at 281 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey.
Divyanshu Vats, and I live at 33 South Mountain Road.
Matt Flynn, 101 Gibraltar Drive, Morris Plains, New Jersey. John McDonough Associates.
Thank you.
Who would like to start?
I guess I can. Good evening, everyone. So we live at 33 South Mountain Road for the past 3.5 years and love everything the town has to offer. We are proposing renovations to build a flexible space to accommodate our growing family and also for me and my wife because we mainly work from home. So I'll let Doug and Matt talk about our plans and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Qualifications, please.
Yes, Douglas Miller from AHM Architects. I've been practicing architecture for almost 30 years. I've been licensed since 2001. Made numerous presentations to boards throughout New Jersey, as well as this board. My license is in good standing. I have a bachelor's of architecture degree. I think that's it.
Thank you. Your qualifications are accepted by this board. Please proceed.
Yes. Div and his wife Geeta came to me with the goal of improving their house for their growing family. Let me briefly describe your project. These are the same drawings that you have in front of you. Our lot is approximately 50 by 148 or 7,488 square feet in the R6 zone. It's narrower than required for the zone where 60 feet is the norm. We're asking for a floor area ratio. The house has a number of existing nonconformities. They have floor area ratio is nonconforming, the lot width, both side yard setbacks, the side yard combined, building coverage, lot coverage, and rear yard unoccupied. So we're starting, a little bit behind the ball. There's really nothing we could do without variance relief.
This thing was maxed out a long time ago.
Yeah, maxed out a long time ago. So I think the house is a charming cottage style. The house is very similar in appearance to the way it was built in 1949. The only real difference is an addition at the rear of the house. The house is really just 1.5 stories where all the bedrooms are created underneath the roof and there's a dormer out the rear. From the street, it really appears to be a 1-story home with just a small dormer on the right side. It's unusual for the neighborhood to have these cottage-style houses. Most of them have already been expanded and enlarged. The house immediately to the left is a cottage style. And my client's goal was really to preserve the character of the house, not take it down and build something much, much larger, trying to work with the aesthetic of what they had. So we're asking for C variances, almost a repeat for all the existing nonconformities. We're asking for side yard setback, side yard combined, lot coverage, building coverage, rear yard unoccupied, and a D variance for floor area ratio. Our house is sited a little bit further back from the street than required, which results in a very, very small backyard. There's also a very large detached garage at 425 square feet, and because it's detached, there's a long asphalt driveway that goes all the way back to connect to it. So just as a function of the way the lot was designed and the house was sited, contributes significantly to the existing non-conforming lot and building coverage. The only real change to the house is this existing second floor addition. This is that addition that they put on. And what we're proposing to do is expand up on the second floor. So it'll be a vertical intensification of the existing non-conforming side yard. We're also going to be altering this deck slightly and then adding stairs from the yard down to the basement. There's also an existing Bilco door, like a basement hatch door that goes down that we're going to be eliminating as well. On the second floor here on the existing house, there's a roof deck, so we're converting that roof deck into livable interior space. So these are the existing and proposed floor plans. You can see the sunroom is here. It's just going to be renovated, changing some of the windows and doors, but it's exactly the same size as it was before. You can see the deck is being just slightly widened to make it a little bit more practical. It's so narrow now, it's not really usable. There's no change to the rest of the existing first floor. On the second floor, proposed, you can see, the The rooms really aren't the exact size as they're shown. You may look at dimensions and say, oh, this room is that big. But because it's under dormers and under a sloping roof, the rooms feel a lot smaller and they're much more difficult to furnish and function. What we're proposing to do is to take this roof deck here and just enclose it. It's labeled as a study, but it's really going to be a flex space, a space that we can use for multiple purposes. It could be a study, it could be a sitting room, it could be a fourth bedroom. And so, there's existing 3 bedrooms now, a small office, a primary bath, and then a hallway. On the exterior, these are the existing elevations. The front of the house, you can see that's that low slung, 1.5 story look with a dormer added here, part of the original design, I believe. That creates space for that small office. And then you can see if there was a room in this space, it's very, very small. The proposed, there's no change to the front, so there's really no impact to the street. And this area here on the second floor, that's the area that we're changing. This is the roof deck that we're changing into that study. So before we go through all the variances, I'll bring a planner up to talk about that. I just wanted to talk about to note a couple things. Now, the planned expansion's at the rear of the house. It's not going to impact the curb of the appeal of the home. Although we're asking for several variances, I think in this instance, the numbers really don't tell the whole story. Our house is unique because we are keeping that low cottage style, slung style house. I have a photo board I'd like to introduce as an additional exhibit. So these are photographs that I've taken throughout the neighborhood. We want to mark that.
When were they taken?
Today.
Give or take.
A few hours ago. So we want to mark this?
Yeah.
A1?
Mark it as A1.
Okay. So these are just some houses throughout the neighborhood. Our house is located here. You can see it's a very, very small appearing home. And I probably cherry picked some examples that look a little bit larger, but these are a trend that I'm noticing in my office and throughout the town, where people are taking, 2-story houses and really expanding them up to maximize the 3rd floor. So it's, you have a half-story ordinance. They're really maximizing this attic area. A lot of the houses, if you look at aerial photos and you drive throughout the neighborhood, they have big dormers at the back, so maybe they don't change the curb appeal from the street. But a lot of these newer houses are really building up the 2nd floor. And, when we're looking at it, it's really about the perceived scale. If you drove around and asked people which house on this example required all these deviations in this floor area ratio, you wouldn't say our house would. So it's a unique situation where the numbers don't tell the full story. I think it's how is the scale of the house perceived in the neighborhood. And a lot of these houses, although they look very large, they're not triggering the variance thresholds. So they're being built in accordance with the zoning ordinance. And we're not looking to do that. We're looking to keep that existing character. So
Doug, how close are these homes to the subject property?
they're on the same block, next block over. So they're all within that South Mountain section of town. I think, if you look, I think the scale of our house is really appropriate for the neighborhood. It's actually much smaller than what you typically see. You've all driven around the South Mountain section a million times. You know what these houses look like. A lot of colonials, a lot of newer, larger houses. So we've really worked hard to really minimize the impact. Our setbacks are going to be a lot less than the existing nonconformities. So Mike, thank you for your time, and I'll turn it over to our planner to kind of go through things, and I'm open to any questions you may have as well.
Any questions for Mr. Miller?
Okay. Matt?
Credentials real quick. Good.
Good evening. I guess I'll just go over my credentials. I have my professional planner's license in the state of New Jersey, which is the PP license. I have my AICP license, which is the American Institute of Certified Planners, which is the national licensure for planners. My education comes from Rutgers. I have my master's degree in planning and public policy. I've testified before this board once before, as well as over 100 other boards across the state. Both licenses are in good standing, and I'm happy to be here again.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. So just by way of very quick background, as Mr. Miller mentions, we're looking at one tax lot, block 601, lot 22, which is approximately 7,488 square feet in the R6 zone. Single-family residential is a permitted use in the zone. And what we're proposing, like we just heard about, is that we're adding a second story to an existing single-story area on the home. The rest of the home is already 2 stories, and this is the one single-story portion that remains of the house. So with that, I do have an exhibit that I'd like to pass out to the board. I guess, what are we on now, Rob?
A2.
A2. So while that's getting passed around, Exhibit A2 is a 3-page exhibit consisting of some photographs taken by my office using drone technology back on September 13th of 2024. So now that that's been passed around, I'll just start from the top here. Photo 1 shows the existing property from the street there, from South Mountain Road. Like our architect mentioned, the actual front setback, the actual front facade of the building, none of that's going to be changed as a result of this application. What I like about sheet 1 here is that not only does it show that the scale of the home, or at least the perceived scale of the home from the street, is consistent with the homes to the left and to the right, but also we do have something that the front setback is virtually in line with those houses to the left and to the right. And therefore, we do have a front yard that is as spacious as those neighboring properties as well. So really, from a compatibility standpoint, we do see something that's going to remain compatible, at least from the street. Flipping over to sheet 2 now, this is an aerial shot looking down on the property. We can see that bump out, that single-story bump out in the rear. One thing that I want to point out about that bump out is that it is more or less in line with the rear setback of the home on the top of the page here. So we're not extending a building substantially into a neighbor's backyard or anything like that. The other important thing about sheet 2 here is that, like our architect mentioned, currently that bump out is actually a roof deck. So it's already usable space. There's already activity happening there. And what we're proposing is to enclose that, which I think is to the betterment of not only the property owner, but to the neighbors by enclosing that space, better for privacy, perhaps noise, and the like. One other quick thing about sheet 2 here is that we do have the benefit of substantial mature trees on this property, as well as some of the surrounding properties, which obviously is going to remain. We're not extending into any undeveloped area of the site, simply keeping the existing building footprint exactly what you see on sheet 2, and just expanding up rather than out. And finally, sheet 3 is a zoomed out aerial photograph, basically noting everything that I already mentioned. Keeping the building footprint that's there today. So from a scale standpoint, from a building footprint standpoint, what you see here is essentially what you get, not expanding that building footprint towards any property line, not getting any closer to our neighbors on either side. The front is obviously going to remain the same, not extending into the back any more than existing. Another thing that I want to note here is that we do get a greater sense of the neighborhood. And what we do see is that this building-to-building separation is also consistent. Even though we are requesting a side setback, which is an existing non-conforming condition, when we look at the area as a whole and we look at the spaces between buildings, it is consistent with everything that's happening around us. So it's not going to appear crammed in or anything like that. Like I said, this is an area that enjoys the benefit of many trees, none of which are to be removed as a result of the application. So with all of that said, just from a zoning standpoint, The side setback is actually decreasing by 0.4 feet. It's still a variance condition because it's an existing nonconformity, but we are improving that nonconforming condition. Building coverage, we are decreasing that by about 54 square feet for the same reason as that side setback. In terms of lot coverage, we are increasing lot coverage, but we are only doing so by about 2.2%. We are also increasing, Milburn has this standard for rear yard impervious. We're actually increasing that again by 2.1%. And I would just like to note that we do have an existing detached garage on the property. So to the extent that we do need that variance, it's not specifically or necessarily because of too much quote unquote house in the backyard. It's also because of the fact that we do have a detached garage in the backyard, a variance nonetheless. And finally, a variance for FAR, which is simply an increase of 3%. And so the reason I give the board all of that data off the bat is really to say that the increases to the property are really modest in nature. Again, a 2% increase in building coverage, a 3% increase in FAR. I misspoke, a 2% increase in lot coverage, not building coverage, an actual decrease in building coverage. But still, I would say that these percentage increases are actually de minimis and really will not have a perceivable effect on the grand scheme of things. So the 1D variances that we're seeking is a D4 FAR variance. We're proposing 42.6%. 39.6% is what's existing, so we're increasing that by 3%.
Yeah, but that's not how it's measured. It's measured off the standard.
Right, and the standard is 36%.
Right.
Correct.
We keep talking about what it's going to apply, but that's not how the application is applied.
Right.
So let's be let's be more genuine in our numbers here.
Sure. So 36% is what's required, 42.6% is what's proposed, 39.6% is what's existing. I just think it's important to note what's out there today, just because we are working with what's there and trying to improve something that's already there, making it more in line with modern living standards. Just to tie this into the positive criteria, we look at the municipal land use law, the purposes of zoning, why we have these standards in the first place. In terms of purpose A, promotion of the general welfare, like our applicant mentioned, this is something that's more in line with modern living standards. Obviously, nowadays, we do have more people working from home. This is something that's a lot more prevalent today than it ever has been. That's not only to the benefit of our current applicant, but for any future tenants that want to live in this home. Purpose G, variety of uses in appropriate locations. Again, this is a permitted use in the zone. I think that what we can see here is that it's not going to have a crammed-in effect. It looks like it fits here, and we're actually improving something that's permitted in the zone. Purpose I, desirable visual environment. Again, I think by virtue of the exhibit that I passed around, this is something that's responsive to the existing conditions on the property, not expanding the building footprint, working with what's there, and I think really doing so in a way that is a very minimal uptick over what we have today. Purpose M, efficient use of land. Again, the addition's taking place over an existing single-story portion of the building, not introducing any new building footprint or any new building mass on any portion of the building where there already isn't building mass. So the flip side to that is the negative criteria, no substantial detriment to the public or to the zone. Like I said, the building footprint is substantially the same. It actually is decreasing as a result of this application. Like I said, this is already a usable portion of the building. We're simply enclosing that. And I think the massing of what we get here, by virtue of the fact that we're not going to see it from the street, by virtue of the fact that we're not going to be getting any closer to any neighboring lot lines, I think is going to fit in and not have a substantial detriment to our neighbors or to the zone. Obviously, this was properly noticed, otherwise we wouldn't be here. And again, just going back to sheet 3, we can really see that the scale of the building, the front setback as well as the rear setback are really right in line with what we see happening around us. The building to building separation is right in line with what we see happening around us. Like our architect mentioned, what we do have here are some variances, but again, the numbers don't necessarily tell the whole story. I think that accommodating the needs of this resident are being done in a way that is really having the most minimal effect on the property and as well as the neighborhood. So with all that said, I think the D4 FAR variance is met here. We're looking at something that's a creative and responsive architectural element. In terms of the C relief, like I said, all of which are existing conditions, some are going to be improved, some are going to be increased. The combined side setback of 17.4 feet as opposed to the 17 feet that is that's required. That's a 0.4 foot, actually, hold on one second. Side setback, 8.6 feet and 8.8 feet is what's proposed, whereas 8 feet and 12 feet is what's required. So 8 feet on one side, 12 feet on the other side. Existing, we have 8.2 and 8.8. So we're actually increasing the side setback on that 8.2 side, making it more conforming with what's permitted. Likewise, the combined side setback, we're required to have 17.5 feet, and we're at 17.4 feet. De minimis deviation there of 0.1 foot. Like I said, the rear yard unoccupied space, we're proposing 16.7%. We're required to have 25%, whereas 18.8% is existing. So that's a 2.1% uptick over what's out there today. Building coverage, 26.58% versus 23% is required. It's actually a decrease, like I noted, going down from 27.31%. So that's a decrease of about 54 square feet. And finally, lot coverage, 51.9%, whereas 45% is what's permitted. 49.7% is what's existing. So to tie that all together, in terms of the C relief, I think we can look to the C2 balancing test, whereby the benefits of the application as a whole substantially outweigh any detriments. All the positives that I went through for the FAR variance, I think, carry forth here in terms of purposes A, G, I, and M. Again, bringing this home more in line with modern living standards and doing so in a way that's responsive to the existing home and the existing use of space. The flip side is the negative criteria, again, but in terms of the C relief, this is an area that's already used. We're going to enclose it. I think this concentrates the outdoor usable space to the ground floor deck area, which is actually buffered to our neighbor by the actual building mass, as opposed to keeping that outdoor area up on the roof deck. So I think in that sense, it is a better zoning alternative than what's out there today. It's a better use of space. And really, I think to wrap up, I would say that what we're proposing, like I mentioned, what you see from the street is what you get. What you see from the sky is what you get. We're not increasing any building footprint. We're not changing the front facade. We're not changing any setbacks. Really, this is a pretty unique FAR variance in that regard, and I think the board can vote favorably for all those reasons. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm here to answer them.
So when I look at these numbers, I get scared. So you have incredibly intense use on a lot that's 23% larger than the zone requires. That's a huge advantage. You have a house that's already built out to all the way out in Mid-Zone, and now we're going for another bite of the apple. How many other houses in the neighborhood have 43% FARs?
I don't have a statistic
Come on,
per se, but they are out there.
Oh, really? That's what I'm asking you. Where are they? None of these are they, in front of us?
No. On this photo sheet, I'm not sure. I didn't compile these photos.
Okay.
I'm trying to find.
So Matt, did you do any analysis of within, let's say, 200 feet, the FARs given, even the tax records to compare apples to apples?
So what I did was I essentially looked within 600 feet or so of the property, and I found the properties that had similar, what they're called on the tax records as livable area, and I clicked into that and I found the ratio of building square foot to lot area, which would be the building coverage, and I did find several properties that have greater building.
600 feet in a neighborhood is fair. I mean, 600 feet is taking you many streets over. It's, it's one thing if you're in R3 and probably grant you that one, but this is 200 feet here. You're not 200 feet and you're over multiple streets here. So, I would like to think that you're, you can give me something as opposed to this. This is the 3% that it already is a big ask, and now we're going to 6%, or 7% over the standard on FAR. That doesn't, I mean, the other thing that, the rear yard unoccupied is concerning. The building coverage, yeah, okay, that's going down a little bit. But your lot coverage is massive. And like I said, we have to keep in mind that you have an incredibly large lot. It's 7,500 square foot lot, 6,000 square foot zone. I'm concerned that your C2 criteria has not been met. Anybody else have some questions?
So I looked at this, and all the variances that you want. It's a modest house, but this is asking a lot. So just for clarification, if I could discuss this. So of the existing non-conformities, you are exasperating every one of the 6 variances? Is that
No.
correct to say?
No, we're actually improving side setbacks as well as the building coverage.
Thank you.
The
There's still
building
not.
coverage, you still need variance.
But you still
Right.
still non-conforming. So
Correct.
side yard you're improving, and which one?
And building coverage.
Oh, thank you.
And the reason your building coverage is improving is because you're taking some of the deck away? Is that how that's calculated?
I'll let
Right,
Mr.
closing
Miller
to becoming FAR.
testify. Yes.
4 of
Rather
the
than-
6 you're
Yeah,
exasperating.
so you swap.
Exasperating. Oh my God, exaggerating.
Of the 6 that we're exasperating, which ones are they? Is that?
So no.
Oh.
So 4 of the 6 variances that you're asking for, they're already non-conformities, and you're exaggerating those of the burden, making this worse.
Let
And
me,
even though they're non-conforming existing, you're making them worse.
let me just be more specific, just to make sure that I'm coming across properly. Side setback is improving. There's actually 2 variances for side setback. One is for each individual side setback, and the other is for combined side setback. We're improving both of those.
So you have side yard setback, side yard combined. Where's the other side yard? There's 2 side yards.
There's 2 side yards
Mhm.
measured individually, which I'm saying is 1 variance, which is typically how we couch that. We're improving that. Then there's the side setback measured collectively, which we're improving for the same reason. Rear yard unoccupied is becoming worse. Building coverage is improving. And lot coverage is becoming more non-conforming. So 1, 2, 3, I have 5 C variances, and 3 of those are actually improving.
It might be helpful if, Mr. Miller, if you show the board where those improvements are taking place and to what degree.
Of course. So we'll start with the side yard setback. So we're asking for a vertical intensification, and it's at the corner where our addition is extended over the 2nd floor. So the closest point of the existing 2nd floor of the house is the front left corner, and that's 8.2 feet. Where we're expanding it at the rear is 8.6.
So isn't that worse?
No, it's greater.
We want a bigger number
Oh,
for
I'm sorry.
setback.
Got it.
I made the same.
Right. Got it.
So where our addition
Yes,
is
okay.
is
You're-
greater than the
You're making
existing.
a better
It's,
sense. Thank you,
you're
sorry.
talking inches, right?
We're talking inches, yeah.
Inches better, right?
But, when you have an existing footprint and we're trying to go up, that's the instance.
Fair enough.
Right, so then the side yard combined because of that side yard is increasing, the side yard combined increases, which brings us closer to conformity. So we're a 1/10 of a foot deviation for the side yard combined, so almost conforming. If we pull that addition in 6 inches, it would be conforming. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about inches for the side yard setback and the side yard setback combined. For our improvement as well as our deviation, it's very, very close. The other change is over the deck here in the back, there's a covered roof section that we're removing. I don't know if I mentioned that during my testimony, but we're going to be removing that covered deck area, which is building coverage, and that's for a net improvement of, I believe, 54 square feet. So we're decreasing the amount of building coverage on the lot. So those are the 3 variances that are being improved. And the issue is, although we have a big lot, a lot of the area that we could is contributed to the front yard. Our house is back very far, and when you're starting with an existing nonconformity and a 2-car garage, there's not a whole lot of rear yard unoccupied remaining. So there really was no choice. We're not changing it. Any place we're building or adding is over impervious coverage. The only real change, I guess we are changing it, is just this staircase at the back that goes down to the basement. So it's very low slung. It's not really going to impact the neighborhood and the neighbor's perception of your backyard. Any other questions
So
regarding?
there's 3 that are improving and 3 that are getting worse.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, prevailing setback applies here, correct? Or 40 feet minimum?
Yes. Yes.
I know our building is 45.9 feet for setback. Do you have any corresponding?
We did that, right? For prevailing?
If you look at your,
Look at the,
Yeah, we didn't survey all the established setbacks and prevailing setback because we weren't making any changes to the front. We didn't want to go through the expense of having a surveyor come out there. We're not going to change the deviation or increase it. And if you look at the aerial exhibit, I believe the house is.
if you look at 8, what do we say, this is A1?
A2.
A2, so you look at A2, photo 1, review the front of the existing dwelling, it looks like that the setback, front yard setback, is substantially similar, at least to the setbacks of the houses to the left and right, correct?
Correct.
The reason I ask is that the architect keeps mentioning that is an exacerbating factor that prevents, that's creating some of these issues. What if it's prevailing?
Right, but if the rear yard is taken for the available free space in the backyard, if the house is pushed back from the street, even though that's consistent with the neighborhood, it leaves very little rear yard. I would say that if you look at the houses very similar, I don't know if you have any data that talks about the rear yard unoccupied or at least just lot coverage. I think a lot of properties are non-conforming, at least my, cursory aerial view and working in the neighborhood, a lot of these houses have these existing non-conformities when they have that detached rear garage.
Yeah, I would just add to that, a lot of even if we look at sheet 3 of Exhibit A2, I know there's a lot of trees in the way, but especially if we look on the right side of that page there, we do see that most of these houses do have detached garages. Some are much bigger than ours. So I don't have the exact statistics on that. It would be kind of hard to get. But I would say that it's likely that it's a common variance condition.
So it's not a variance condition.
I'm sorry?
It's not a variance condition. If everyone has it, it's not a C1 variance.
You're talking about the rear yard unoccupied, right?
Right, my point is that if it's a common thing for the neighborhood, it's not a C1 hardship.
Oh, no, I didn't say it was C1.
Right, it's not even a variance, it's not a thing, because if everyone has it, it's not exclusive to a single piece of property. So it's not a negative if everyone has it.
That's what I was trying to make, the exact same
Right.
point, that, if everybody has the same front yard setback within reason, then it shouldn't be considered a hardship for you guys, right?
I would agree, and I would say that we're not relying on the C1 standard.
Right.
Yeah.
Just looking at page 3 of A2, the aerial shot of the neighborhood. How many of these homes, it looks like many of these homes have some kind of bump out in the back, but they don't build up to the second floor. So did you do any analysis of that, of how many other houses, because many of them look similar to what this house looks like currently. And I'm just going off your aerial picture, I have not done that analysis, but I'm wondering if you would have. So will you be the only house in the neighborhood that would have a second floor for the bump out?
Bear with me for 1 second.
So actually to further that, I would ask also, you know, we keep talking about the front yard massing. What concerns me about this property in particular is the rear yard massing. Is that when you look at it from the neighbor's perspective, it's going to be a very large development now from the rear. Kind of speaking to what Gary is saying, that it's now, you know, even when you look in your drawings, the back almost looks like it's eating the front, because you have this, the shed dormers in the front, but the back is a full 2.5 story kind of look to it in the rear. So the massing is large. So how many homes, to further what Gary's saying, have that type of large massing in the rear?
I mean, it's certainly true that some houses do have the single story bump out as opposed to the 2-story bump out. But I would also just mention that, you know, we are substantially conforming with height. When you look at this property from one vantage point, you're not seeing the entirety of the building. So you're really only seeing that one side. So if you're the neighbor, you're seeing that side, it's conforming in terms of height. We're not changing the setback. So I would say that when we look at it from one vantage point or the other, it's not going to appear as the entirety of the FAR that we're seeking.
But if you're the neighbor to the south, you're gonna have a serious sunlight impact.
Well, again, we're not extending that farther than that home.
No, but you're going straight up.
Correct. But we're not infringing on his usable rear yard area, is what I mean.
That's what I'm saying, sunlight, I'm not talking about space.
Right. But again, in terms of sunlight, we are compliant with height. So I think, you know, it's important to just note that.
Any other questions?
I think if there's nothing else.
I was just gonna let the record show there's no one in the audience to ask questions.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I would just say if there's nothing else, if we could just maybe take 5 and discuss with my client.
Feel free.
Thank you.
It is.
That was the fastest.
Hey, if you could read the room, I don't think we needed 5. So what we're gonna do, go back to the drawing board, take a lot of the board's feedback, see what we can do to eliminate some variances or at least decrease them, try to bring this more into conformity, and also do a more comprehensive neighborhood analysis to determine, you know, answer some of these questions. How many of these other houses have bump outs out the back, 2 stories? How many other have the same degree of deviation? You know, although, you know, our house is sited a certain way, you know, let's see how many other houses are sited a certain way and maybe have been expanded as well. And so we could show that maybe we, even though we are asking for a deviation, we are a bit more consistent with the neighborhood and the way it's developed over time.
You're listening.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thanks. When do you hear?
Oh, okay.
Well, no, we're not saying thank you very much.
No. That's what we're here.
Yeah, that's.
No, I was talking to Mr. Miller, he was saying goodnight, everyone.
I don't know how much time you need.
Well, what's the next available date?
The next available date is November 18th.
And how long ahead of time should we need everything resubmitted?
I would need everything no later than November 8th.
I think we can make that happen. But we would have to renotice if we're improving things, correct?
Right.
No, well,
You
no.
make them work.
If we make them worse, you have to renotice. If you're improving, no.
Okay.
Or adding any, which don't.
We don't want to add any more.
Make it worse if you listen.
Yeah, but if you happen to make 5 things better and 1 thing slightly worse, then yes, you have to renotice. But let's see, let's get another date and say, we'll carry it with no further notice being required unless it turns out that you are exacerbating or making worse any variance condition or you're adding variances.
Got it.
You wanna go with November 18th?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What's the date?
November 18th.
November 18th, no further notice to be provided by the applicant unless there are changes to the application that result in the need for greater or additional variance relief than what is currently in the application.
Good.
Is it thank you? Good night.
It's a thank you.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Thanks for coming.
There you go.
Let the record show there's no one else in the audience regarding comments, so I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening, folks.
Thank you.
I knew you would enjoy it.
Happy Halloween. Oh, no,
Yeah, we'll see.
anyway, I'm excited that Milburn decided